Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors.
Hello, I'm Jake Carter with Felix and Fingers. I'm here with Kerri Glover, who is an attorney and has a master's MBA. And she is the owner and manager of a bunch of venues all over the U.S., including Maui's Pineapple Chapel. She has an executive level marketing and hospitality degree with more than 25 years of experience in the wedding industry. We were just chatting before we got on here, and she tells me how she flies all over the world and does all of these weddings constantly. I'm a little bit jealous. And executed over 1,500 events and sold more than $40 million in hospitality services in 20 years.
Yes.
And you are a venue consultant, and you help venues figure out how to run things correctly. So,
correct.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else you want to talk about in your bio?
No, I really appreciate you having me.
Your background and history?
Yeah. My whole career has been devoted to the wedding industry. I started as a wedding planner, became a venue consultant. I've built 26 wedding venues now. Some of them I ongoing manage, so I'm able to speak to between 200 and 400 engaged couples a day. One of those venues is on Maui, which is how we were connected. And I also became an attorney during COVID. So I'm a fairly new attorney, but I really specialize in the wedding industry. And I really assist wedding venues specifically on becoming better at what they do, more profitable. And sometimes I build them from scratch. Just depends on what my clients need. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited with someone that has so much experience in like different places and regions. I'm really excited to talk about this because I think it'll be very fun. I think you're going to have some really fun stories, and I'm excited. So what things, having been through a bunch of different, you've done this for a long time. So what are some things that you used to see that were like popular trends? And what are some things that you see now that are popular trends?
Oh, interesting. Okay, it used to be, obviously, when I was a wedding planner and building venues in the early 2000s, the barn rustic thing was massive. My car smelled like burlap for a good 10 years. And I couldn't get enough mason jars at our office. It just, everything was rustic. No matter where we were planning the wedding, from Maui to Florida, everything needed to be very DIY, handmade, lace on, rustic. And the brides really at that time period had to feel like something that was at the wedding at least was handmade by them, touched by them. I feel like now, as a sort of like throwback from COVID, when we were all sequestered in our own homes, we've had a massive surge traditionalism. So traditionalism has become really large. Luxe has become really large in the sense that like more is more. So, not only the traditionalism in the sense that like we're seeing larger weddings than we ever have before, but also in the sense that like, the decor and the elements are like more flowers, more layers on layers, patterns being mixed together with that sense of authenticity that Gen Z really loves. So creating those really touch point elements aren't necessarily something now that couples feel like they have to handcraft themselves, which creates a great market for vendors that want to kind of squeeze into the space where it's like creating those touch points, those little elements at a wedding that are very authentic. For example, the really hot trend with the phone where you like leave a voicemail on those vintagey style phones and they get the recordings of everybody leaving those. That's a great example of something that's like traditional and lovely, but not created by the couple, like they handmade it. So there's a lot of elements like that we're seeing in weddings that I think is really fun. That will create a lot of history for that couple and something they can pass on to their kids, but it's not something that they crafted themselves. So that's kind of where I see the shift moving.
Interesting. I have noticed that as well. It seems like I've noticed when I go to things, there's a lot more flowers and layers and different things that are really, really cool. And I've noticed talking and doing different podcasts, a lot of people agree and have said things that you see people kind of going above and beyond for experiences, like you talked about with the phone, and how it's like it's something that guests are involved in and interacting with, and it's about a guest experience and not so much about like trying to build something like the couple themselves. It's like everyone goes and has an experience, and it's very like focused on that. So that's really cool. Yeah, I've seen that a lot. I agree. That's really interesting. So with thinking about the past and present and future, what are some things that people should never do at their wedding or event? Something like, what are you like, this is the worst thing you could ever try, like just don't do it. It never works out.
I think like whenever, and this goes back to like my wedding planning days, but very gauche is trying to plan a wedding that will please other people. I think especially the couples that are getting engaged now are very good at focusing the wedding on themselves. They need to stay true to that. We all have this part of ourselves that makes us natural people pleasers. So when you're planning your event, you're like, oh, my grandma wants this. My mom wants to invite these 25 people I've never heard of, whatever the case is. And I think this generation in particular is fantastic at staying true to what it is important to them and making sure the wedding is about them. And I think this is very true, that if you have a lineup of your guests, they should both be able to pick both of you out of a lineup. And if they can't, they probably don't need to be at the wedding. And that's a way you can eliminate like 20 to 40 of your guests probably. Especially if you're playing a destination wedding like Maui, you can really trim that list to the people who are really authentic to you and what's important to you too as a couple. And that goes for every element of your wedding. So like, who's marrying you? What kind of ceremony is it? What are your vows like? Do you want a wedding party? Some couples don't want a wedding party, but they feel like they have to do it because it's what's traditional. But if it's not what's for you, then like, just remember, it's about you two and your commitment to each other. You've just invited all these people to witness it. So staying true to that is really important. And that you can carry that consistent nature all throughout your menu, the entertainment you choose, the layout of your entire wedding weekend, all of that should be a reflection of you too. And then, by the way, you've invited these people to celebrate with you. So if you stay true to that, that's really important. And I think this generation is doing a better job at it than anyone ever has.
So very cool. Yeah, I think that I agree. I think that seems like it's something that is really important. And I have noticed like smaller weddings occasionally with what seems like people that are closer to the bride and groom versus like these big, huge weddings full of people that no one knows.
Right.
So to stay on this same kind of question for just one more minute, what is like the craziest thing that has gone wrong, most cringeworthy story? Like what is the number one thing where you remember at a wedding, you're like, this was the worst thing that happened?
Oh my gosh, I have a lot of stories like this, Jake, and I've been writing a book for a long time. I think I mentioned in my bio, I'm about 75 completed with writing a book about how to be a successful wedding venue. I put some anecdotal stories in there. Some of them are PG and some of them are R-rated. But I'll say one that I can share probably is I did have a wedding in Dallas when I was a planner. And I have a no red wine, brown drinks rule in the bridal suite for obvious reasons. And we had a bridesmaid that we knew had a bit of a drinking problem. And I had a heads up about her. And when I was downstairs in the reception room checking centerpieces, my assistant was upstairs. The bridesmaid wandered into the bridal suite and poured an entire glass of red wine on the wedding dress. Now, normally this would be a bad piece of news, but this wedding was all about the dress. The bride's father, unfortunately, had passed away prior to the wedding, and in his will, he stipulated that she had to spend $10,000 on the gown itself. And this $10,000 was 10, 15 years ago, so it was quite a bit of money even then. So it was an original off-the-rack Vera Wang gown, and we had a huge red wine stand in the back. So I sent my assistant over to the church, the chapel. It was an SMU in Dallas, and I ran to Michael's and bought pot de soie silk and basted a double French faux bustle into the back of the gown. This is when Vera was doing all the pickups in her gowns, and it was like new, so vintage I am. And I created a bustle because I knew there was no way to get this red wine stain out of the back of the dress in 45 minutes. And we sent the bride down the aisle that way. Honestly, I'm so sorry, Vera. It looked pretty good. Considering what I had to do, the bride was pretty happy. I mean, I had to get the hair and makeup team back to redo the bride because she was so upset. She was like hysterical, crying. Her makeup was a mess, right? So we had to do her hair and makeup while I was sewing the faux French bustle into the back. And then we sent her down the aisle like that, the bride sent to the bridesmaid, that she really needed to, get a little AA help after that. Like that was really a low point for their relationship. As far as I understand, after the relationship, they were able to become friends again, and the bridesmaid got some help. And honestly, it looked fabulous in the photos. You can't even tell the difference. So I'm pretty proud of my seamstressy skills. But there's a reason why your wedding planner has like certain restrictions on things. May seem arbitrary when you're planning the wedding day, but those are kinds of the things that we do to protect our couples on wedding day. And if they still go wrong, if you have a great wedding planner, they're able to fall back on their other skills in order to save the day. That's just one that comes to the top of my mind that I can share on a podcast. It's totally PG.
Having asked this question a handful of times, I think that the planners have some of the most interesting stories for the things that go wrong. And every one of them is like this story about something really crazy happening. And then all of a sudden, the planner comes in like a superhero and saves the day. Oh, you know what? I can just go get this fabric and then sew it on and it'll look good and fine. And
it's going to be fine.
What? Who knows? Like, fine. That's crazy. You guys, planners are amazing in just taking care of those horrible
planners
situations.
Are amazing.
You guys do such a good job. And if you're listening to the podcast,
planners
this is why you
have
to get a planner, because otherwise, who's going to fix your dress when you spill wine on it?
Nobody. It's
wow.
So true. It's so true.
So I know that we talked about the phone recording and the maximalism kind of thing. What is outside of that, what is one of the most unique, cool, fun idea stories that you've had where a couple did something really different and you were just like, wow, that was amazing? So the exact opposite of what we just talked about. What was something that shocked you and just went really well?
Super fun, hot trend that I'm so here for right now. Actually, we did it at Maui Pineapple Chapel maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We had a couple that brought down farm animals to their wedding from up country. So we literally had a full-on petting zoo, like donkeys, bunnies, llamas, and all the guests were super into it. And they were like, oh my God, I love this. I had this adorable picture of this bride holding a bunny. And then her and her husband with a donkey between them. It's hysterical. And it's so funny. And then at my own wedding venue, Maison Albion, that's in Western New York, we had a couple last year that had a llama be a groomsman. He came to the wedding dressed in a full tux and he had fake hands like this, he had hands in the front, and it went viral. It was on CNN and UK Daily Mail and Fox News, and it's everywhere. And people share it and reshare it all the time. And I'm like, I don't know, farm animals at weddings crack people up and it makes them so happy. So I love that trend. I'm super here for it. So if you're a venue that can allow that sort of thing, go for it. It's so fun. It makes guests really, really feel comfortable in an environment maybe they're not. And so it's really, I don't know, I'm all for it. I think it's a really good time.
Yeah. I know one of our players in LA actually had his wedding at a venue that they really like working with. And it is a rehabilitation center for animals or something, but they also are a wedding venue. And oddly enough, and so it's just all farm animals. And I know that he talked about he did his wedding there, and we play there a bunch. And the stories about just how I think they had a donkey that was strapped full of beer on the sides of it, so it was just walking around for people to have beer
yes.
throughout. Yeah.
He's our most popular upgrade at our wedding venue.
Idea.
We have a mini donkey, and he's super noisy. He's the noisiest animal I've ever heard. But he's tiny. He's the size of a dog. And we strap him full of beer, and a bartender takes him around and opens beers in his little satchel, and he's such a big hit. It's just funny. I don't know. It's just out of place and kind of funny. It breaks with traditionalism in a way that's
so
I don't know, makes people have a great time. I don't know. I think it's really blessed.
Where do you have the beer barrel? Which venue is that?
That's at Maison Albion, the wedding venue that I own. It's in Western New York, kind of halfway between Buffalo and Rochester, sort of near Niagara Falls. And we live across from a farm, and they have a mini donkey. And we rent him all the time. He's the beer barrel.
Okay. That's amazing. Like I said, I think we're going to have to do a whole separate podcast just on the New York location. So you
Okay.
cannot, well, I'm sure we could find a donkey somewhere in Maui. I don't know. You want a donkey at your wedding? We'll figure it
Oh
out.
no, there's one up country. I know the lady. Contact me. I can help you connect with her.
Okay, so if you want a donkey, you want a beer burrow at your Maui Pineapple Chapel wedding, Dueling
Sure.
Pianos, beer burrow, it's going to be fun. Don't worry. It's going to be a very awesome, fun, unique wedding. So let's
That's
do
right.
it. I want to see that. The more that I do these, the more I have these like moments during these podcasts where I'm like, someone needs to book this. Like we're going to build such a cool wedding.
I know, right?
So what is some advice that you would give to someone that is just starting to work on planning their wedding?
Okay, that's a great insight. So what I tell my couples all the time, even when I work with them now on the event side, on the venue side, is I say there's three really big stressors, right? The dude or the doll, the date, and the dress. So if you're the bride or the groom, you need to have your partner. That's the most stressful part, finding your person, making sure that they're the right person for you. Finding your date, finding your venue, and finding your attire, what you're going to wear. And that is the three most stressful things. After that, it's all fun and fluff, right? So try to take like how much time you have to plan your wedding. So say, for example, you have a year. Spend each month working on one vendor. So like you hire your planner first. The next month you work on catering. Next month is entertainment. And then spend your whole month like searching out all the vendors you want to meet with, talking to all of them, make your decision by the end of that month, and then work on another vendor. This is the only way to like really enjoy the wedding and take your time to be like that's all I'm doing this month. That's so much fun. That's the way you would like really enjoy your engagement, as opposed to being like, oh my God, I have to book everything right now. And categorize those vendors based on like scarcity in your area, right? So in Maui, for example, you want to make sure that you have your caterer and your planner booked. Those are really hard to book. We have a great abundance of gorgeous photographers. So you have a little bit more time to choose the right person for that. Same thing with things like bakeries or florists. There's a lot of great options, but try to choose the things that are much more scarce and early on. And then that also spaces out like your finances a bit. So you're not feeling like you have to put down all of your deposits in the first month. Gives you a little bit more time to space that out. Anyway, that's a great way to enjoy your engagement year. Like take your time, enjoy, drink the champagne when they offer it to you. This is the year of engagement. Like enjoy that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is actually the first time I've heard that answer. That I think is a really good answer too. No one has said anything like that, but I think that makes so much sense. Is like plan ahead, space out how much time you're going to take for each vendor in person instead of just being like, oh no, we have to figure it out right now,
Yeah.
Because it seems like a lot of times it's a very stressed situation where people are just trying to book everything all at the last second. And it doesn't seem like stress decisions are not necessarily good decisions.
Correct.
So,
for sure.
Yeah. So thinking of Maui Pineapple Chapel, what makes that venue unique?
Okay, so I'd say Maui Pineapple Chapel, we're one of the only venues left on the island, still like Maui style, so we're very laid back. We haven't changed our pricing since we opened 7 years ago. So we're incredibly affordable. We have ultimate flexibility in vendors. So we have a great vendor preferred list. However, if you want to work with a vendor that's on our preferred list, sounds great. We don't charge fees for that. We just want to make sure that they're professional and they know what they're up to. And that's it. If you want fire dancers and llamas and sparklers, we're all about it. Like, we're one of the only venues still on the island that doesn't have 100,000 rules. There's a few things we can't do at our venue just because of our insurance, but they're very, very short lists. And we give you like ultimate flexibility to use the space however you like. We're not like the kind of venue, it's like you get married here, here's your cocktail hour, there's your reception, All of our weddings are totally different. And, we're looking over the ocean, like the most gorgeous spot on Maui in Kapalua, right? So you can have the cliffs and take pictures. You're on the beach in 4 minutes. And then you can get married above the ocean and have like the sand whipping in your face. So you get the best of both worlds, which is fabulous. So it's a little commercial for us.
Yeah, of course. And like I had mentioned, I have just played there like about a week ago. And I can speak to all of that too. It is one of the most beautiful venues on the island, I think. Don't tell anyone I said that. But it is gorgeous. It's amazing. It's just this cute little like building that is just so perfect for like a smaller kind of situation. I'm sure for larger stuff you guys use the outdoor area as well.
We do.
But it's just
Yeah.
beautiful because it's surrounded by grass and it's just this beautiful little building and all of the flowers are pretty. Like I was there the other day and I like literally took videos of the flowers just out front that were just growing because I'm like, wow, this is just pretty. Like no one put those there. It
Yeah,
wasn't
our
like part of
team
the
is
florist, I don't think.
so good at keeping
I think that it was
up.
just there. It was
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank
and we got
you.
to watch the sunset from the venue. Yeah, it was
Oh.
really cool. You can just see the sunset over the ocean. I was like, this is great. I love this.
That's so awesome.
So, yeah. Yeah. It was a very, very fun venue
Amazing.
for me to play at. I very much enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm so
Um,
glad.
So, yeah. So things are going well. Nothing crazy happened.
Yeah.
So, what is the current availability and how far in advance are you guys booked?
Actually are pretty flexible this year and next year because of unfortunately the disaster we've had in Maui. We had a lot of couples cancel and or move their wedding dates further into the future. And so it created a lot of flexibility. Typically at Maui Pineapple Chapel, we'll see between 110 and 180 weddings a year at our venue, so we're very popular. But this year we're seeing more like 90 or 95. We have a lot of Saturdays available, which is very unusual for us. Because we're on Maui, we're gorgeous all year, so it doesn't really matter the month that you're thinking to tie the knot. So we can do things very last minute. Our team's really great at responding to that, or planning something with you 2 years out. That sounds great too. So, like I said, we're not changing our pricing. We're super flexible. So we welcome all different kinds of weddings, multi-day events. We give huge discounts for multi-day events. Indian wedding or something that plans, multi-day events. There's really great discounts in that with working with us. Yeah, it's a pretty venue right on the ocean. Couldn't ask for more.
So, what kind of flexibility do you have with guest count in the case that it changes? Because I know I was just talking about that, and the actual building is a smaller building, but I know you have all that space outside.
Right. Inside the chapel, we can seat about 80 or 90 for dinner. So it's great for backup in case of rain if you're planning around that guest count without having to rent a tent, which is really nice. But in the entire venue, we can seat about 5. So we're really great for those larger scale events. A lot of our couples who have like 110, 150 people choose to have a tent on our Loa Merkai lawn. And it overlooks the ocean again. But it provides that kind of safety for them against the weather, the wind on the Kapalua side. But we've hosted, I think the largest event we ever hosted was about 400 or 420, but we also include a parking attendant to help with some of the parking and that sort of thing when the events get that large.
So, what is the average event size that you guys normally do? And if you don't mind, what is the normal cost as well?
Oh, sure. So I have actually a really great blog. If you go to our website and click on the journal page, I have a blog all about like sample budgets from weddings that are like 15 guests all the way up to, I would say most of our couples that have like about 120 guests spend in the $35,000 to $45,000 range. Another advantages to Maui Pineapple Chapel is we allow you to serve your own alcohol that you purchase as long as it's professionally served. So a lot of our couples go to like Costco and buy their alcohol or have it delivered by Wailea Wine and then served by like Twisted Tiki, Garnish, or a catering company. And that saves about $6,000 to $10,000 over a hotel bar package. So like massive cost savings. And I would say our average wedding on our venue ranges between 80 and I would say. We definitely have a lot of really intimate events, a lot of like ceremony only, just 30 people. But we have been seeing a big surge to larger weddings lately. In April, we had 19 events in April this month, and at least half of those were over 100. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what is the deposit and cancellation policies?
Sure. We ask normally for a reservation fee of half of the site fee, which our site fees only range from $3,500 to $5,000. So again, very affordable. But if you're in a different financial situation, you'd like to put more like $1,000 or $1,500 down, totally fine with us. We can do that and then break up your payments more. We want to do what works for you. Our cancellation fees are based on more on where you cancel. So if you cancel after you book the date, we retain $1,500 of your reservation fee. You're also welcome to move your date to any other date without any penalty at all. So we're very flexible in that matter as well. If you cancel within I think 6 months of your wedding, the entire balance is owed to us because we can't probably rebook your day that late. And then in the middle, there's different like breakdowns of like what we owe back to you and that sort of thing, or what you owe to us, depending on where you are. And you're be flexible. Of course, when we were in the fires, our owner was very generous and refunded reservation fees of anybody who was affected by the fire and wanted to cancel. So that was really generous on his part. And we just want to make sure we're working with our community and helping everybody around us. We want them to be able to celebrate with us.
Yeah. So I know that you mentioned that you guys are really flexible with vendors, and you do have a preferred vendor list, but you're flexible with them regardless.
Correct.
Do you guys have an in-house catering service, or do
We don't.
couples provide that? Okay.
Couples can pick whoever they want. Like catering, food trucks are really popular at our venue. Professional 5-star, 5 courses, also popular, whatever they prefer.
Is there, I know the answer to this question, but tell me about your bridal suite.
We have a really cute bridal suite. It's really pretty. Really popular with the couples to get married. I mean, our brides to get ready in that space. Beautiful, like seating, lighting, rolling rack, vintage armoire. It's really gorgeous. Great light. The makeup artists love the light.
Yeah. I got to have that as like my personal like green room for the last show I did.
Green
it was
room,
great.
nice.
They were like, yeah, you can just hang out in there. I was like, heck yeah. There's a bathroom. It's super, super cool. It was awesome. I loved it as well. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
What about noise ordinances and curfews to be aware of?
We're in the same noise ordinance that all Maui is suspect to. So all outside music has to be done by 10 p.m. So we ask that it starts to wind down at 9:45. However, we can keep it dancing inside the chapel until 11 p.m. So a lot of our couples choose to have like dinner maybe outside, but then dancing in the chapel so they can go a little bit later. Mm-hmm.
What about the parking situation for guests?
Sure. We have a parking lot that we share with the beach. Has about 35 to 45 spots, depending on how the cars are laid out. With our full venue rental, we include a parking attendant that shows up about 2 hours prior to ceremony. So he starts blocking off the parking lot and then assisting people to park. That allows us to fit more like 45 to 50 cars in that space. That's good for about 90 to 130 guests, which is like the average of our wedding count. That being said, there's additional parking about a block away from our venue. It's really convenient. And as you know, Uber's really great on Maui too. We have a great Uber system, so a lot of couples choose to guide their guests that way.
Yeah, I mean, and it is Maui. I know that for venues in other places where people are generally driving Maui, it's generally going to be a destination, so people are sharing cars. People, I know for events that I've done, the couples will rent buses or things like that and just have a easy drop-off kind of deal where you're not so concerned about parking. But good to know that you guys can take about 40 to 50 cars, so that's very cool. And I know that we mentioned that you guys can take people inside if it rains. And obviously, if you're renting the Pineapple Chapel, it doesn't cost anything extra to move inside. You don't just rent the outdoor space, do you?
It's always, the chapel and the upper terrace are always included, no matter what rental you have.
Yes, awesome. How early can vendors access this space? And is there an event coordinator or manager on site during the day?
So we do have an amazing venue manager, Kelly, who checks in the morning, makes sure everybody has everything they need. And she's very on top of it, teaching people how to use our Bluetooth system that we have inside and outside the chapel, making sure the air conditioning is working. They have everything they want. Vendors are good. Typically, our rental time starts at 10 a.m. However, if we don't have an event the day before, we will sometimes allow tents to be set up the day before, rentals to be dropped off. Some of our couples who have a very elaborate setup choose to just fully rent the day before so they can do the whole setup before. And we offer that at a half site fee rate. So it's actually quite discounted just to make sure that there isn't an event booked the day before and they can set up to the extent that they want to because we're so affordable. Those 2 days are generally the cost of like another venue's just one regular day. So we're pretty popular with the wedding planners like that. They love to secure those set up and just to be picked up the next day up to like 9 a.m. because then the 10 a.m. rental begins for the next event. And if we don't have an event the next day, we're a little bit more flexible on that.
Very cool. The last couple things that I want to mention on the podcast here are, I know that you said that there's a special offer for listening to the podcast and you can do $300 off your site fees. So
if you mention this podcast, you can have $300 off of site fees. Yep.
Yeah, awesome. And then did you have any other questions or things that you wanted to mention or talk about?
No, not at all. I really appreciate you having me. This is really exciting. I can't wait to see it. And thanks for meeting with all these different venues.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I look forward to our next podcast where we get to talk about New York. So look
Great,
forward
that
to
sounds
that
good,
one.
Jake. Sure, of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope to have left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, happy planning and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.